going to court and the reporting around it has launched our current conversation. This idea that racial slurs keep being thrown out there as if that's some sort of justification for the violence that you saw on the viral video doesn't sit well with me. I don't think that's right. I don't think that's something that, maybe it explains their actions, but it certainly doesn't excuse their actions. Yeah, that may be why they did it, but it's wrong that they did it if that's the only predicate we have, that's wrong. And look, I feel sympathy for the caller in the previous segment. They're saying that, if someone comes up and insults my wife, at some point I'm going to punch him in the face. Are you? I doubt it. Should you? Should that be legal? Should we live in that world? That is the world we used to live in. Them's fighting words. And that used to be an accepted thing. I think we're a little past that. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But unless you can clearly delineate where you draw the line on what is acceptable insults and insults that justify violence, I think we're just going to have to be in this new paradigm where we turn the other cheek for bad words. But also, that doesn't mean we have to be chumps and accept the fact that people can be violent and knock out some woman with a sucker punch in the middle of the street and let her bleed out of her mouth over a word that may have been said. Here's the part of the news report I want you to hear, and then we'll get back to the phones.
And the prosecutor today also addressed racial slurs that can be heard in some of the videos circulating online. The prosecutor said, yes, there were racial slurs, but he said they were made 1 minute, 47 seconds into this assault after some of the people were already kicked and punched. Reporting live down.
Yeah, you see how she says that like that's an important point. That changes everything. It shouldn't. 800-288-9227. This is Greg in Gutter. There's a place called Gutter?
It's Gunner, Texas.
Oh, Gunner. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you. Go ahead, Greg. I should have guessed that.
Yeah, no worries. So just to classify the difference between the two words, those mean nothing. The other caller was talking about insulting his wife. I've been in that situation, and you walk away. It's just nothing's worth it. It's not worth fighting over. It's not worth. What if you did hit the guy? I'm a pretty big boy. I'm 6'4", 260. I hit somebody and they get hurt. They hit their head on accident. You're just trying to defend, quote unquote, their honor. It's not worth it. There's a difference between protection and over words. I was in law enforcement for the first 10 years out of my life out of college, and you see that all the time. He said something mean to me. I mean, this isn't middle school. Grow up.
Well, it's also, if you take that justification and just expand it a little bit, how many people are in jail right now because they shot somebody based on some insulting words?
Sure.
And don't let words ruin your life when you respond with violence. No, and I've been there. I've had crazy people or people who didn't like me or people who didn't like the woman I was with come up and throw insults. And it's walk-off time. That's what I do. I get the heck out of there. James, you're a coward.
Yeah.
I'm a coward that's alive. I'm a coward that's never been seriously beaten up. I'm a coward that's never been to jail. I'm a coward that doesn't have a record. I'm a coward that has never been to court. So, yeah, fine. I'm a coward. Ooh, you got me.
Yeah, I mean, again, they're just words. And at the end of the day, do you really want to, and I'll change it.
Well, hang on, Greg. Now, we say this, but it sounds like the lady who was doing the report and most of the people in the news who describe this, and a lot of our neighbors see this as an acceptable justification. Oh, well, they said the N-word. They've got what's coming to them.
Well, I mean, it's because we have a racially charged nation. That's what happens when you remove Jesus from everything. You have no moral standard, and the government stands up and says that. And at the end of the day, people say from same race, all race, they always say horrible things to each other because you have a lawless society. But regardless of any of that,
you know what?
Victimhood out. Do you really want to be the guy who is aggressive and then kills somebody over a word?
Or you mentioned Jesus. You could just turn the other cheek. Keep going. Thank you very much, Greg.
I mean,
in Gunter.
Yeah, man, have going.
It's Gunter, Garrett. See, this is why I got good, Garrett. Thank you very much, Greg. This is Glenn and Colleen. You're on WBAP. What's up, Glenn?
Yeah.
Oh, you're on speakerphone. Get off real quick.
All right.
Go ahead.
Got you.
Good, go.
Yes, sir. I was thinking the same thing the other guy said. It depends on the words. And, otherwise, I just walk away. You can say all you want, talk and blah, blah, blah. But if you put your hands on me or my wife, then, yeah, that's when I would definitely get involved.
Well, everybody agrees hands. Is there any level of speech that could justify violence?
Not in my opinion, no. You can
Right.
talk all you want, say all the words you want. I'm good with that because I can walk away from that, because I know you're an idiot. So I just, if you're willing to go out that far and just attack somebody, I don't, I wouldn't talk about people like that, just the way I was raised.
Well, okay, but if this is your belief system, how do you feel when you see people in the news act like that's a justification? Well, they said the N-word, they should get knocked out immediately.
No, I don't believe that because you hear that all the time, man. I mean, you walk down the street during the day in a crowded public place and people are throwing around the N-word. And
Oh, man. The record I have for the most number of N-bombs I had to endure was playing football in high school. You know how many times you hear it during one football practice?
Oh, probably over 100.
Yes, easily over 100. And you know what? No one ever got punched in the face for it. So there's nothing magic about that word, but there is something suspicious about the selective enforcement of the use of that word. And that's where you have the abrasion, the cognitive abrasion. Like, oh, that's rubbing me a little raw. That's not just, that's not right. That's not fair. That's not logical. And that needs to change. 800-288-9227, 800-288-9227. How do we fix it? I don't think it's up to us. I'll explain next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. I love it. This is the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. The Cincinnati Brawlers in court. The racial slur somehow seems to be a big piece of the evidence, and that bugs me. It shouldn't. The treatment of this magical word as a justification for violence is wrong. It's the societal norm and the rules that we all live under, but it's wrong. It's a bad word. Shouldn't use it. No one should be calling each other that. But it's still wrong to use that as a justification for violence. And for so many people out there, white, black, indifferent, the idea that, oh, well, they said the N-word, and then that settles the conversation with them, kind of bothers me. How do we fix it? Here's the ugly part. We don't. That's not within our power. That is not within our grasp. That is going to be decided on when the community stops treating it like a special word. Now, what can be done to sort of incentivize that evolving of cultural standards? Well, for one thing, if the media wasn't so damn biased and anti-white and highlighting every time something bad happens to a black person at the hands of a white person, or at least treated it evenly. Name one white person, some unarmed white man, that was unjustly killed by cops. Or it was even controversial. It was even the case. Maybe he was justly killed by cops, but we had to get a case about it. Name one. Oh, you can't think of one? Well, that's weird. Can you think of any in the other direction? Oh, yeah. Ton of them. Michael Brown, Freddie Gray, Eric Garner, Philando Castile, Alton Sterling. You know all these names. George Floyd. So the media only tells you when it's going one way and never tells you when it's going the other way. That's something that could help it. Because you kind of understand why some of our neighbors here are on edge a little bit if the only news they're getting is about the terrible things that white people are doing to them and never a balance of it going the other way. Because look, it's not that I blame them for coming away with the idea that white people are racist and violent and get away with all kinds of unjust acts toward black people. I can't blame them at all. I blame the media for that. And if there's any people in the media that are listening to this, stop it. What you're doing is ugly. It tears the country apart. It's unjust. It doesn't help. I mean, might be good for your political party. That's a pretty disgusting way to get ahead in the political world, is driving a racial wedge between communities that were getting along better 20 years ago than they are now. Tyler in Cleburne, you're on WBAP. What do we do?
Hey, James. I don't have a great solution, but talking about the weight of words, I think there is a line in the sand. You mentioned it earlier, how like if someone was being bullied, like, hey, you're going to probably fight that person if there's a consistent level of harassment, because we know bullying's a thing and it can cause some mental detrimental effects on a person physically even. I'm not black, but if someone called my little girl a little N-word, that'd get my blood boiling. And I think there's a level to say, like, okay, Russia rattles their saber. Hey, we have nukes pointed at the U.S. And I like what Trump said, hey, words have weight. And I think we live in a society where we're disrespectful, we're not kind to one another. Another caller mentioned, like, hey, Jesus, we should be more like that. And I think there's a level to our culture we need to hold each other accountable. I think, if it comes down to it, striking first is the best option.
Well, only if there's an actionable threat is sort of my worldview. If someone says your daughter's a horrible name, you still don't get to punch them in the face. Now, if they're following you through the parking lot and continually harassing you, even though you've asked them to stop, then now it's not just the words. Now we have a harassment thing. And so it's not the words themselves. It's not just the use of this certain collection of consonants and vowels. There's also an action that goes along with it. The other line that's drawn in the sand is if your words are making an actionable threat, like not just a threat to you, but a threat that can be pulled off. Because like I'm on the phone with you. If I said, hey, I'm going to kill you, that's not an actionable threat. But if I'm in the parking lot pointing a gun at you and I say, hey, I'm going to kill you, or just brandishing a gun.
If a doctor's working on me and doing surgery and calling me all sorts of names, like, it doesn't fit the bill.
That's a great example. Yeah.
To repair my leg.
All right. Well, it was a good chat. Thank you, Tyler and Cleveland.
Yeah, no worries.
Mike in Hazlitt, you're on WBAP.
How about this? How about we have mandatory anger management classes?
What? No. Don't make us all go to some stupid anger management class. My God, dude, I work for...
Anybody who graduates high school, in order to have that diploma, has to have taken an anger management class. Think about the civility we might find in our society if everybody knows how to handle their temper.
I don't want to have to take another class. I haven't taken any classes, and somehow I'm not violent. I don't think anger management class is the answer. And the same reason I don't think so many of these other programs are the answer. Because when you go to the nice neighborhoods, why are they nice? Is it because the people there took an anger management class? Or because, I don't know, maybe they learned that from their parents, or maybe they go to church and learned it there, or maybe they, just had a better upbringing. There's a lot of other factors that are in play long before you get to an anger management class. Like when it was so frustrating when I was living in New Orleans. They were doing this big push to put water fountains in all the parks in the bad neighborhoods. And they were like, well, how do you expect them to enjoy the park and not commit crime when they don't have any water fountains? And I was making the case, you think on the good side of town, they have water fountains in their park and that's why they're not violent? You think if you go across the lake to the North Shore that there's water fountains in the park and that's why they're not violent? What are you people talking about? It might sound nice, hey, anger management class, to teach them how to manage their anger. No, I think that's your dad's job. And if your dad didn't do it, I don't think a one semester class in a public school is going to be any more effective than their reading attempts. Anyway, that was kind of out of time. I like the thought though, Mike. At least we're coming up with solutions here. 800-288-9227. Is a racial slur legal justification for beating up someone? If no, what do we do about it? I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Welcome back to the big show. Well, as it stands right now, we have a lot of people who have strong opinions on what it takes to legally punch somebody in the face. This is funny because this is not something that directly affects you. This story in Cincinnati about the brawlers after the jazz festival that beat up a bunch of people in the viral video. They went to court today, and they keep using the racial slur as if it was some sort of justification for violence, which is kind of odd. I don't think that is a justification for violence. But even though this happened 6 states away, this is the rules that we all have to live under. I would like to see that change. I do not think a racial slur justifies violence. That doesn't sound like an extreme position to me. I am just baffled about how it gets talked about in the media and the news reports on this, like that's the most normal thing in the world. Don't worry, we're doing a whole thing on the Russia summit tomorrow, and I'll get you all caught up on what's happened with the Texas legislators that have run. But this is a discussion that I hope we don't have to keep having 5-10 years from now. Darlene in Dallas, you're on WBAP.
Hey, I do not agree with being able to punch somebody out because they say something to you that you don't like.
Right.
In the 80s, that's a long time ago, I know, but my son was in junior high. After football practice, I know, but after football practice, he went to turn all his gear in, and they were all in this big gym, and a bunch of guys were there, and one of his friends was there with him, and they were all African-American. And they were all calling each other the N-word, hey, N, and all that. So Justin did it. Oh, I should have said his name, but anyway, my son did it. And I mean, he got attacked. There were 4 or 5 people on him, hitting him, kicking him in the bleachers, knocked him down. I mean, it was awful because they could say it among themselves, but he couldn't say it to them, even though one of those boys had literally stayed the night with us before. He was a friend of our family. And when we asked him about it, he said that he had to do what the other ones did. And that's just like, a while back they were saying you couldn't do dreadlocks, you couldn't do this or that because it was offensive. I mean, where's the line? It just seems like the lines are gone. And that was back in the 80s when that happened in junior high. He's now in his 40s. So, I mean, I don't know.
Well,
it's a cultural thing. It's like if you use language within a culture, it's okay to use it if you're in that culture. But if you hear them saying it and you're kidding around and you use it, well, then you're a bad person because even though they say it, you're not allowed to. But you don't know the rules.
What's interesting is I have seen this discussion come up where people ask different AIs, whether it's the Grok one or Chat GPT, how come the N-word gets disparate rules depending on who says it? And the comparison that the 2 AIs that I've seen try to explain it are it's just in the way that you can insult your own family, but you get offended when someone else does it. Like if you call your own brother an a-hole, that's one thing. But if someone else calls your brother an a-hole, then you're like, hey, right? So I think the problem here is just based simply on the color of people's skin. They treat them, I don't want to say like family, but they take their side. They give them there's a bias there, an obvious bias, which, if you want to use other words, an obvious what? Discrimination. Oh, no, they're making judgments based on the color of someone's skin. Well, we know we were told that's wrong in the past. Is it not still wrong? So,
and I'm sorry. But another thing that I don't understand, okay, say one guy said that to one guy. Does that give 5 or 6, 7, 8, 9 people the right to come and jump on him?
Yes, because you didn't insult that one guy. You insulted the whole family.
And there's your problem. It's a cultural thing.
It's a collectivism thing because not all people that have that skin tone live by these rules.
That's true.
That's true. There's plenty of them that don't. There's plenty of them that if they see a group of people jumping on them, they don't jump in or take sides just based on the color of their skin. The problem is that there's a subset in that group who does think like that. And I don't think we can fix it. I think maybe we can kind of lean on the media to not inflame it so much, but they haven't been real helpful in balancing their reporting when it comes to racial issues now, have they? This is Kevin in Fort Worth. You're on WBAP.
Yeah, I think that we should have all 18-year-olds after they graduate high school be required to do 4 years military. That commands respect. And I think that's among all colors, all races.
No, look, that works for most people, but you don't want the military full of people who don't want to be there. You don't want the military full of people who don't belong there or deserve to be there. You don't want ill-behaved people in there. You don't want people who are too stupid in there. And I don't mean that as an insult, but there's like a cutoff. Like if your IQ is below, I think it's like 82, they just don't let you in. You shouldn't have criminals in there. You shouldn't have sexual miscreants, sex offenders in there. No, we shouldn't be sending everyone to the military. I know that you've seen a lot of people go into the military and it changed them for the better, but that's not going to work for everybody.
May not work always, but there's not a perfect plan, and that's one good one I think of.
Yeah. Well, see, so many of these plans, like the guy earlier that called in, is like they should all go to anger management class. You're saying they should all go to the military, purportedly, I imagine, to learn discipline and learn how right and wrong and how to treat your fellow man. Some people want other training or schools or programs, and all of them sound like a sorry government replacement for a dad. That's what so many people in these issues really need. If you want to get rid of crime, where's it coming from? The community that doesn't have as many dads. You want to get rid of poverty? Where's that coming from? A community that doesn't have as many dads. Drug addiction, prostitution, so many of our societal ills are exacerbated by the lack of the biological mother and father, the lack of the nuclear family.
Well, then starting from the home, I think they need to change the divorce laws and not make it so dang easy to break up homes so they have a mom and a dad.
Well, I think what you really mean is custody laws and child support laws, because that definitely incentivizes divorce. That also incentivizes promiscuity, knowing that if you do get knocked up by some random guy that you had a one-night stand with after the club, that he's not going to be financially responsible for you. This is going to disincentivize that poor behavior that leads to these poor conditions. So there's a few incentives we can put on there, but really, here's the tough truth. That's out of our control, y'all. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, Tony Ortiz from Current Revolt. More discussion on the Texas redistricting, because the Democrats say they'll come back, but they have some demands. No, this is too suspicious. This is way too suspicious. I'll give you my coordination theory next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. My next guest, returning to the James Show from Current Revolt, the great Tony Ortiz. Welcome back to the James Show, sir. Big fan of your work over on Current Revolt and one of the great Texas political tabloids we have. I'm interested in this. The Texas House Democrats that ran, they're now offering to come back with a couple of conditions. Your take on this, Tony? Well, we don't have any control over that. Yeah. What the heck? So here's my theory, Tony Ortiz. They knew they were going to come back. They know it's safe. They know they're not going to be arrested. Dustin had them there for that first day of the session, but then he put them in recess for 3 days. That's when they ran. They've made no real attempt to punish them, to vacate their seats, to take away their chairmanships, anything other than a couple of knick-knacky financial paper cuts here. I'm starting to get the feeling that Speaker of the House, Dustin Burrows, had some sort of coordination with this. Like he's in on it. Well, because no one talked to them all of human history up until they ran. All right, we're talking with Tony Ortiz from Current Revolt. So does this mean the maps are going to pass? Gotcha. All right, Tony Ortiz from Current Revolt. Come back to my theory. How would they leave the state without some sort of assurances that they wouldn't lose their seat, that they wouldn't lose their chairmanships, that they wouldn't be arrested, that they wouldn't face any charges? That's a hell of a trust that they have with Dustin Burrows if there's no coordination. Now, I'm not saying I know that they coordinated or they asked or they told him or they got a wink and a nudge, but both scenarios are possible. Now we're just discussing which one's more probable, and I'm starting to lean toward coordination. Right. Yeah. All right. Well, good chat there, Tony Ortiz. I appreciate your insight on what's going on in Austin. And you know what? You might want to work on my theory a little bit. I don't think it's that far off. All right. Thank you very much, sir. All right, Tony Ortiz. 800-288-9227. Do you suspect coordination between the leadership in the Texas House and the Democrats who fled? Because if not, that's an awful big risk that they took, and there's some brave souls. We're giving them a lot of credit. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Tomorrow is the big summit in Alaska. If it happens, it'll be the United States and Russia sitting down. And if something amazing happens, we'll go right to it. We already have plans. We had a meeting. We're all ready to go for this thing tomorrow because this could be a nothing burger. This could be a walkaway moment. This could be something that sort of implodes within a matter of minutes, but it could be something that's written in the history books. And so just in case it is, keep it right here. We'll even if it's in the middle of the James Show, that's how important we find this story. We'll bust in on it. Our top two stories of the day. Number one, the Cincinnati Brawlers are in court, and I am a little abrased by this idea that using a racial slur means you can get beat up in the middle of the street and so can the four people next to you, as if that's some sort of justification. And then the other big story that's happening actually here in Texas, at 1:30 today, right before the James Show started, the Texas House Democratic Caucus sent out an email, said, yeah, we'll return, but here's our conditions. And the conditions are something that's kind of weird. They're like, well, we have to end this special session with a sign of die, which we were going to do anyway. And then California has to adopt these new maps. We're not in control of that. So it's a weird situation. I'm trying to figure it out. 800-288-9227. Let's go to Chris and Crum. You're on WBAP.
Yes, James. When it comes to racial slurs and violence, I can tell you two definite things. After 27 years of being in interracial marriage, I've never heard my wife's family say anything that bad. In fact, when she serves me a nice salad at the dinner table, I ask her to pass the oil and vin N-word. I don't even want to touch that word.
I see what you did there. Was that a punchline? Because
that's the punchline.
Okay. I didn't know if you really did that. Okay, so you're in an interracial marriage. What does the outside world not know about 27 years of interracial marriage?
They may not recognize what genre of music actually has a body count. Oh, that would be hip-hop and rap, because I don't call any other genres of music having that. It's okay to say N-words when you're rapping about women as garden tools and such, but, it's okay for people to use that as terms of endearment, but God forbid anybody else says that. We can't have that.
Who gave you more problems in the interracial marriage, your community or her community?
A little bit of both.
Yeah?
Yeah, I would say it's about even.
That's one thing I know I don't know because I haven't experienced it, and I haven't even been adjacent to someone who has experienced it. So, all right. Well, fair enough, Chris. I guess you have some insights. I'm glad you shared them with the class. Thank you, sir.
All right, brother.
All right, let's go to Bill in Gainesville. Hey, Bill, you're on WBAP.
Well, good afternoon, and I would like to have a demand before these Democrats come back to Texas for wasting my tax money. The cost that it takes to just have a special session, I need to be reimbursed, along with an apology for defrauding me out of their representation. They're not representing anybody. They're representing themselves. And I think that every one of them should have to pay the money back to the taxpayers.
I like that plan, but also this doesn't happen without the complicity of the Republicans who are in charge in the House, and namely Dustin Burrows. He didn't make them vote the first day they were in session and everyone was there and we had a quorum. He gave them a 3-day break and basically gave them the window by which to abscond. And since that's happened, he's threatened to arrest them. But there's rumors that some of them are still here in Texas and they're just not being arrested because this is all theater. And then when they get back, is anyone losing their seat? Did they move to vacate their seats? Is anyone going to be charged with a crime? Is anyone going to spend any days in jail? No, they're not. So while your ire toward the Democrats who ran it is justified, and I agree with it, I want you to expand that to the people who are allowing this to happen and going along with the theatrics. And namely, it starts with Speaker Dustin Burrows, but this isn't a one-man show. It was Dade Phelan who was doing it in the last session 2 years ago. And there is just a subset of the Republican Party, and I'm saying that with capital R's, not the voters out there, but there's a subset of them that are just absolutely not Republican in any other way but name. They are not conservative. They do not behave as conservatives. They do not follow the will of the conservative / Republican voters in Texas. They are absolute political frauds, and they're surviving with a pretty nice political career being a chameleon.
Well, the problem I see is it's not Republican or Democrat necessarily. It's the taxpayers who the government is defrauding then. Someone, maybe Ken Paxton, can just put a freeze on everyone's assets and say, we got business here to the taxpayers. And until you guys sit down and get this figured out, do something.
Well,
look, money's being wasted.
Again, I agree with the direction your gun is pointing, but I think the real solution is if you leave the state when we're trying to have a quorum, and unless you're like hospitalized because you got in a car wreck and you're in a coma, you have vacated your seat, and you should either like that seat should be erased, and so it no longer counts toward a quorum, the 2/3 or whatever it is. Or the governor should be able to appoint someone to fill that seat that's been vacated. But they're not even doing that.
Good deal.
They're not even doing that. They're not even trying to do that, and so they're in on it. There's a level of complicity here. And Bill, the only thing I can think to do for the Bills in Gainesville, just the regular people listening, is knock these fake ones out in the primary. And we have the Rhino list. Brian Harrison and I put together the list. We even got a map. So if you want to get the list, send me an email or a Facebook message, Instagram message, whatever. I'll send you a list. Go look at the map. See if you're in one of the districts of these rhinos, the 32 rhinos that flipped and voted with the Democrats to put Dustin Burrows in charge. All of that. That's where it starts. And that's just in the House. We have a smaller faction of this in the Senate. But when we talk about solutions, for now, there's nothing we can do. But when this primary comes around next year, follow the list. And if you don't take care of business in the primaries, we're not even going to get another shot at this for 2.5 years.
Right.
All right. Well,
thank you.
Yeah, good chat. Thank you very much. That's Bill in Gainesville. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Yeah, and this is such a weird couple of demands here. Texas House Democratic Caucus. They sent out this email to everyone about 1:30, right before the James Show started. And they want California to pass their new maps, and they want to end the special session at the same time that it was already going to end. Something's going on here. This isn't sitting right. All right, coming up next, we're going to preview what's coming up with the big Russia summit tomorrow. 800-288-9227. I'm going to tell you what I think the result could be, should be, and will be next on the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome back to the James Show. You're listening to News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, and we have some special programming coming up tomorrow. This is going to be cool, or this could, let me put some qualifiers in there. This could be an event that's in the history books. This could be something that will be remembered beyond next week. Do I know that that's how this will end up? No. I'm just saying there's a reason why we're doing all this preparation. There's a reason why we're preparing to break into the James Show live tomorrow. Because in the best case scenario of what could happen tomorrow is a history-making event. Now, what flavor of history-making event? Let's explore the spectrum here. Because of all the deals, if they do work out a deal, let's assume a deal is worked out. What could the deal look like? Here's the spectrum. The Ukraine keeps all of its territories, and we return to the borders that were before when the war started, and everyone's happy, and it's a total win for Ukraine, a total capitulation for Russia. On the other side of that, what's the total capitulation of Ukraine and a total win for Russia look like? Well, Russia takes over all of Ukraine. Ukraine's now part of old Russia again, kind of like it was during the Soviet Union. And we know neither one of those deals are going to happen. If there is a deal, it will be somewhere in the middle of that. Russia will get some land. How much? That's the variable. There will be some other economic arrangements made, the lifting of sanctions. We'll complete the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, or we'll get off your back about that, or we'll open up this product or this oil or these rights or these minerals, or there's going to be a lot of horse trading there. And I don't know where those variables are going to land up, but I know it's going to be in that spectrum between total Ukraine capitulation and total Russia capitulation, which I don't expect to happen. I think there's a greater than zero chance no deal happens. Is that good? Well, that's better than a bad deal, but that would mean the war continues. History is not going to be made at this summit. It may be made at a future summit. And in that case, we'll still probably break into programming as soon as it's announced. But I also have a suspicion that if it does fall apart and it's not going to happen, we'll know quick. We'll know super quick. We'll know within a matter of minutes if this thing is going to fall apart. And this is how businessmen work. This is probably how most diplomats work if they haven't been completely intoxicated by the political life for too long. Because, remember, most politicians didn't start out politicians. They start out making some money or doing something else somewhere else. You have a few exceptions. You have the lifelong politicians like a Joe Biden, or you have the guys that got in late in life, but they never actually had a career of any sort, like a Bernie Sanders or a Barack Obama. But for the most part, these guys are businessmen. Most of them are lawyers, actually, when you break it down. And so they know how deals work. They've been in the room before where they're sitting across the table from some guy and he's trying to get something out of them and they're trying to get something out of you. And you try and find a situation that is amenable to both. You try to find the piece of paper that they can both sign and both walk out of that room and proud of the result. You have to give them both something to brag about. And I know it shouldn't matter, but we are humans enduring the human condition. You have to make it feel like the other guy's getting a win. And he has to make you feel like you're getting a win. And the fact that it hasn't been called off, we're less than 24 hours away from this summit, is a fantastic sign. This means that Putin thinks we're serious about a deal, and we think Putin is serious about a deal, or it would have been called off probably about right now, probably about the time the James Show was starting. Because if they're going to call it off, I give them a little bit of wiggle room here, because you don't want to call it off literally at the last minute, because then the 16-hour plane flight that Donald Trump's making from D.C. to Alaska, I don't know if it's 16 hours, so don't at me if I'm wrong. But you don't want to find out halfway through that flight, and then you got to turn around somewhere over Saskatchewan and come back. That's a whole waste of a day. I think we're past that point. So I think there's going to be a summit. The fact that it made it this far, it's possible but not probable that there will be a quick walk away. I am more than 50% chance in a belief in a chance that some deal is going to happen. Now, we have this other weird variable that will be visited upon this situation that isn't the norm for when you're listening to WBAP, and I'm telling you about when peace deals are trying to be made. The one weird wild card we have is Ukraine's not in the building. So it's different. Like last week when they were brokering the deal between Azerbaijan and Armenia, these two tiny countries over by the Caucasus, east of Turkey, north of Iran, they were both at the summit. They have a long-going conflict, and they have a weird territory thing where Azerbaijan is split in half by Armenia, and it's been a geopolitical oddity for your entire life. But since the countries are so small, hadn't got a whole lot of news. But both of them were at the meeting. That's how it usually works. When there's an Israeli-Gaza meeting or a ceasefire talk, both of them are usually in the building. It is odd, though. It is odd that Ukraine's not going to be there. That could be something that throws a wrench and ruins what would otherwise be a successful agreement that could be reached tomorrow. Rest assured, though, you're going to find out here first. Yeah, if the James Show is already part of your daily listening routine, all you got to do is keep it here. We'll do this again tomorrow, and we'll jump in and let you know, and you'll hear first if it's history. Is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? Oh, that's the tough one. I think so. But I could just as easily see this being a 13-minute meeting where someone walks away, or they both announce some sort of agreement that Putin likes and Trump likes, but then we find out in 24 to 48 hours that Zelensky doesn't like it, so this was all for naught and didn't work out anyway. So, super complicated situation. We'll cover it tomorrow for you, probably about right now on WBAP. Coming up next on The James Show, find out why Melania Trump is threatening to sue Hunter Biden for $1 billion. And once you hear why, you'll wish this story is getting more coverage. Find out on The James Show next. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And I'm not usually into court cases and whatnot. I'm not into court TV. That's Miss Parker's territory. She loves a good mystery. Miss Parker. And I am interested in this one, though. We have the story here. I hope this happens. Melania Trump is now threatening to sue Hunter Biden, and it's all over this Epstein stuff. The lawsuit's huge, $1 billion. $1 billion? Okay. What's all this about? Well, it comes from an interview that Hunter Biden did earlier this summer, where he made the claim that Epstein, that Epstein, was the guy who introduced Trump and Melania to each other. Oh, well, that's a new twist on the story. Hadn't heard that before. So Melania Trump didn't like that storyline because after Hunter Biden said it, a bunch of news outlets passed that along as if it were true. And so we've seen a few news outlets take that story down or edit the story or put on a correction. But Hunter Biden hasn't. He still has the video up where he's saying that, and he didn't take it down. And when Melania's lawyers reached out to everyone, he was included, he didn't take it down. So now we have the threat of a lawsuit of $1 billion over this claim that Jeffrey Epstein introduced her to Donald Trump. The lawyers describe this as false and defamatory. I don't expect Hunter Biden to apologize for his comments, but at the very least, either prove them or take them down. The problem is you can't prove or disprove this. And the idea that Epstein introduced Melania to Trump, that goes against the story that they've told for years. Now, it could be that Jeffrey Epstein did introduce them, and now they're telling a different story because they don't want to be associated with this fella. But we have reason to believe that the same story that's been told before, everyone knew Jeffrey Epstein was a creep and he was a political third rail. So we've had, like, in a recent interview with the Daily Beast, one of the guys who was reporting the story, Wolf, claimed the First Lady was known to an associate of Epstein and Trump when she met her now husband. He had to go back and retract that. So when other people tried to build on this story, that all got retracted too. However, since this has happened, there's a YouTube show with a guy named Andrew Callaghan, and he asked Hunter if he is going to apologize to Melania. He said it's not going to happen. He's not taking the video down. He's not apologizing. He's not issuing a retraction or a correction. So we have a little bit of a stalemate here. Is something going to happen? I don't know. But the official story, like an example, you go to Harper's Bazaar in 2016. They did a profile on him when he was running for president the first time. And the story that was published there was they met each other in November of 1998 at a party that was hosted by the founder of a modeling agency. But there was no Epstein involvement in that part of the story. There was no necessity for Epstein to be in that story. This is just something I guess Hunter is inserting there. I don't know. Did he hear this from someone else? And now he just has confirmation bias and prefers for it to be true, so he can go around and tell a story that connects the Trumps and Epstein? So how is this going to end up? I don't know. But I love this story for a couple reasons. Number one, Hunter Biden's such a contemptible figure. And Hunter Biden is so bad for that whole brand that the more he's on TV, the more he's in magazines, the more he's on websites, the more he's in YouTube videos, the better for Team Red, to the detriment of Team Blue. The other side of that coin is that Melania Trump is such a sympathetic figure here. Now, Melania Trump made her living being a model, being on the cover of magazines, being the centerfold, being in advertisements, being all over the place, being on billboards. But when she became First Lady the first time around, you remember this. It was the first time in your entire life nobody cared to interview the First Lady. It was the first time in your entire life the First Lady wasn't on a magazine cover. And I don't mean every month or every magazine. I mean at all. At all. This is the first lady, the first lady in your entire life that was on fewer magazine covers after she became first lady. This is the first time the first lady made her career being on magazine covers, and then all of a sudden was not worthy to be on magazine covers after she's the most famous woman on planet Earth, basically. Wasn't that weird? And so you saw the cognitive dissonance. I saw the cognitive dissonance. We all felt it. Wait, where's all the pro-women crowd? This was happening during the Me Too movement. You're supposed to believe all women. Women are supposed to be sympathetic figures. They're supposed to be held in high esteem. No. This one you ignore when you have what's easily the most beautiful first lady in the history of the United States, probably the history of the planet, and she doesn't make it on a magazine cover. Boy, that's a stretch, isn't it? These people. So yeah, how much of a sympathetic figure can Melania Trump be made into before people on Team Blue actually admit it, before the media jumps in on this? You know, you would think this would be a bigger story. This is the wife of the current president in a legal battle over defamation, over a very nasty claim about Jeffrey Epstein from the son of the previous president. Please let this story blow up. Please let this be part of the national conversation. Please let MSNBC report on this for 5 seconds. Let CNN report on it for 5 seconds. I hope this goes somewhere. I'm really looking forward to it if it does. If not, I'm just going to keep track of this and I'll pass you along the updates that the rest of the media should be talking about. But I imagine at some point, Hunter Biden's going to either bend the knee or this lawsuit's going to be thrown out because it's so hard to prove defamation. But my God, I wish this would get more attention in the media. Coming up next, Donald Trump sending in the National Guard to D.C., cracking down on crime, trying to make it safer. And we have really been enjoying listening to people argue against reducing crime and keeping the citizens of the nation's capital safe. You'll hear some of the highlights next on The James Show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. I'm James Parker on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, sports fans. James Parker here for the Prize Picks app. Football's right around the corner. And if you're already going to be watching football, if you're already keeping up with it, if you already know all the inside stuff, who's going to start, who's going to take off, who's about to have a great season, who's about to lay an egg, take advantage of that knowledge with the Prize Picks app and turn your inside info, your fandom, into some real money. And it's got all the leagues you're looking for. You're a college guy? Cool. You can go ahead and put Arch Manning on your lineup right now. You're a pro guy? Cool. You can go ahead and put Dak Prescott on your lineup right now. So go check it out. And while you're trying to figure this out, you can play with some house money. Download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code WBAP. We'll give you $50 in promo cash. That's money you can play with and turn into real money with your first $5 lineup. So download the Prize Picks app. Use promo code WBAP. Get $50 with your first $5 lineup. So whether you're still getting ready for baseball as they're heading into the playoffs, maybe you're a big WNBA fan. If they're still playing, I don't even know. But they've got soccer, they've got pro football, they've got college football, they've got tennis, they've got esports, they've got the big three, you know, that Ice Cube League, they've got that in there. So check it out. MMA, boxing, whatever you're into, NASCAR, Prize Picks has it. Prize Picks, run your game. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. So Donald Trump has announced a crackdown on D.C., and the whole point, or at least the point that's being told to the public is it's a dangerous city, and he wants to do something about crime. Well, the best argument that they've been able to muster so far against this is twofold. Number one, boy, that sure is authoritarian. Okay. Number two, yeah, but crime is down. That doesn't mean it's not too high. Okay, so now this has turned into something else. So 48 hours into this storyline here, we get that sort of second level of the discussion, because the discussion starts out, well, is this necessary? Is this the right approach? Will it work? Does he have the constitutional authority to do it? But now the discussion is, look at how other people have reacted to this. And aren't we learning a lot about people by how they react to situations, especially when it's different than what you expected? So some of them aren't falling for it. Let me play the ones that aren't falling for it first. This is good stuff. Chris Matthews, he was on Morning Joe talking to Mika Brzezinski, whatever it is, and he was saying, do not fall for this trap. Do not fall for the trap of arguing against law and order, of arguing against fighting crime, of arguing against cleaning up the streets, arguing against making the neighborhood safer, especially in these majority-minority neighborhoods. God forbid we make those a safer place to be, a better place to be. Do not fall for that trap. So Chris Matthews gets it.
I think this is a strength move against the big cities who are in a difficult situation on crime. And the murder rate, you can't keep saying violent crime is down, but the murder rate's up. To the average person, the murder rate's about life and death. You don't brag about a rising murder rate. And the Democrats are, I agree with you, Mika, they're falling into the trap of defending what's indefensible.
It's a trap.
Yes, there it is. That's fantastic. Yes. I don't think he intends it to be a trap. I don't think he's doing this just to catch you off guard and make you say things that can be used in very strategic sound bites against you. I think you are just making this a trap, and it's just kind of convenient for Trump that you're now arguing against law and order. And not all the arguments are going this way. Some people are pointing out that, he has the ability to do this in D.C., but when he talks about sending the National Guards into some of these other cities, that's moving into a constitutional gray area. Cool. Great discussion. Legit criticism. But that's not where everyone's stopping. Some people are saying, well, this is just out of control. This is not good for the community. What he's doing here is wrong. Listen, not everything this dude does is wrong. And if you're going to try and make that case, you're going to have a hard time convincing the American people that you're on the right side. And so now it's not just the discussion about the actual occupation itself. The reaction to this, so fantastic. So let me show you a little bit about what I'm talking about. The people who are falling into the trap. This lady, Simone, the bald lady that's on MSNBC sometimes. Do you know what I'm talking about? She just started that show with the former RNC guy, Michael Hill. So here she is on MSNBC, just falling into the trap as hard as anyone possibly can.
Are the real policies, the wraparound services to address what is happening with the juvenile justice system in Washington, D.C.? Is the National Guard and the military going to address that? I don't think so. So until we start talking about that, we are really adding to the fear mongering, in my opinion, and amping up the rhetoric when we should be tamping it down, because Donald Trump is giving us rhetoric and not the reality.
You don't think more police make streets safer?
No, Joe, I'm a black woman in America.
No.
I do not always think that more police make streets safer. When you walk down the streets of Georgetown, you don't see a police officer on every corner, but you don't feel unsafe. So what is it about talking about places like Southeast D.C., right? Ward 8, if you will, that people say, well, we need more officers to make us safe. I think we have to rethink what safety means in America.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, more cops don't make you safer. Sure. Didn't you all already lose that argument with the defund the police movement? Hasn't that already been proven to be a disaster when it's actually implemented in the real world and not your theoretical classrooms and academia? Yeah, as a black woman in America, police don't make people more safe. Yeah, like police are running around just thumping black women in the head with their baton. Like police are the bad guys. Love it. All right, Greg Gutfeld put a pretty little bow on this discussion because I think he sees some of what you see too.
And that is the reason why they're stuck with narratives. So they use the authoritarian narrative, which is a great one because you can fit anything into it. It's just like the racist filter. So it's like increasing law enforcement, authoritarian, arresting juveniles, authoritarian, curfews, authoritarian. They're all authoritarian. They could all be racist but none of them are, but they can look like it. But Trump, whether it's border or crime or trans invading sports, he takes the lane of common sense. So they're stuck with these narratives because they can't. What alternative do you have to common sense? There is none. You can't get over this. What happens when you remove the narrative of authoritarianism? If you took that out and just watched what was happening, it was just crime fighting. That's all it is. It's an apolitical act that we all agree with, fighting crime. It's common sense. They know that it works. The fear is that it will work. Mm-hmm. And if it works, God help the left, because success is a threat to the preservation of their failures.
All right, that was well said, Greg Gutfeld. Coming up next, you're going to meet the author of a new novel for young adults, and it's based on Texas high school football culture. A little bit of a murder mystery, some excitement for the younger readers in your world. Might be a good book for your kids or grandkids. You'll meet her next. Heather Butka coming up on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, fellow Texans. Welcome back to the James Show. This is News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. And my next guest on the James Show, Heather Bukta. Now, I wanted to talk to you because you're a successful author in a real specific genre. And before we talk about your book, let's talk about you. First off, you're in the YA genre. Explain that to people who are hearing this for the first time. What is a YA book?
No problem. YA stands for young adult. And so it's basically teen fiction. I write kind of in the older teen fiction category, 14 to 18-year-olds.
So why this category? Not children's books, not adult books. Why young adult as your target audience?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, it's because everything is like a giant deal when you're that age. And I love how much everyone at that age is just exploring and trying new things out and, you know, changing their opinion about stuff week to week. And everything's important. And I love that, like, chase after life attitude that you have during that age.
What got you started in writing for this genre? Did you always write for young adults, or did something push you into this?
Well, I worked as a youth pastor for a while, and then I moved on to teaching high school, and I just always loved that age category, and I kind of knew it the best, I think, voice-wise. So I thought, you know, if I'm going to write, which I love, might as well write what I know and what I'm surrounded by. So that's kind of how I went into YA.
So how'd you get started? What was your first book, or what was your first successful book?
Oh, so it's been a long grind. I've written a ton of books and had an agent for a while before something finally sold. My first book that debuted was Beyond the Break, which actually has a Christian protagonist, which was kind of different for the traditional publishing market. They wanted something that really reached a niche that wasn't being met.
No,
and,
God forbid we make Christians look good.
Yeah, I know, right? And so yeah, I gave them 5 chapters to Penguin Random House, and they actually bought it off 5 chapters, which was unheard of. And I was so over the moon, but I had to write really fast after that because they wanted a full draft in a couple, 3 months, I think. So, and it's done really well, and it continues to sell really well. And I think it just proves that, gosh, there are kids out there that really enjoy seeing themselves and just as normal teenagers, you know, going through life and trying to figure stuff out while still honoring God. So that was my first novel.
Okay, so let's talk about the books that people might already know. You have a new book coming out, All for the Game. I guess it's been out for a month or so now. But talk about the other books that people might associate with you and say, oh, okay, I know her, so she has a new book. I need to go get it.
There's Beyond the Break. Chasing After Night was my sophomore novel. That is also teen romance. It's a lot of fun. And my third book, we took a left turn, and my agent had been telling me, you've been wanting to write this thriller. You love football. Like, let's write a thriller. So we pitched them this thriller idea, and they loved it. So that's the newest one. And that's the one I think people are hearing about because that one made the USA Today bestseller list.
Nice. Okay. We're talking with Heather Bukta. She's the author of her new book, All for the Game. Now, are these in a series? Are they connected? Do you have some recurring characters?
No, these are all 3 are standalone novels, very different, all different characters. This novel has 3 POVs in third person, which basically means you follow the story through 3 different characters.
POVs, point of view, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to keep up here. And this one kind of looks like it has a football theme to it.
It does. It has small town Texas football, which is so much fun. I wanted to write like a Friday Night Lights meets Pretty Little Liars meets The Firm for like a 90s reference throwback. And so I just set out to do that after kind of being inspired by a moment when I was visiting Texas.
So what made you write this book? Is this based on some of the people that you knew growing up, or where do you get these characters from?
No, unless they're listening. Absolutely not. No, they're all made up. I went to a bar in Texas while I was waiting for a friend, and it was wild. Texas Longhorns were playing the Oklahoma Sooners, and I knew a little about this rivalry, but I wanted to hear from you guys. So they were selling dollar long necks, and I bought $20 worth. I handed it to the people in line, and I was like, tell me about this football rivalry. And they were so excited. And then I walked in, sat down at the bar, and it was insane inside. And I just looked around and took it all in. And I looked at the guy next to me at the bar who was wearing a cowboy hat. And I said, this is crazy. And he, without skipping a beat, he like tipped his beer at me and he was like, nah, darling, this is Texas.
No, now, Heather Bookta, have you actually gone to a high school football game in Texas?
I have, and I loved it. And I was blown away by not just the football, but how talented and athletic the cheerleaders were and the dance team. And it's just a whole athleticism and this beautiful Friday night culture that is fun. It's what people do, and it's where they kind of catch up on their week. And what the beauty of that, I thought, gosh, but if you write a thriller, you've got to make this go sideways. So what happens when the really cool culture turns sideways, when people want to protect it a little too much?
All right. So what do we have here? Is this a murder mystery novel?
Sort of. It is. It's basically. It's high stakes football, small town drama. There's a lot of twists, and the small pitch is a scandal. When a scandal threatens to unravel East Pages High's championship football program, one player, Finn Geringer, his cousin Britt, and his girlfriend Meg must risk everything to protect the team, their futures, and the truth. So loyalty and betrayal collide under the Friday night lights, and that's like the basic pitch that we went with.
So you're coming to town this weekend. You're going to be at Barnes & Noble. Where can we find you there?
So I will be there from 12 to 4. We're going to kick probably around 12:15 with a Q&A for about an hour so people have time to grab their book and find a seat. I will be interviewed by Preston, the manager there, and then afterwards it'll give time for the audience to ask some questions about anything, book writing, about the writing process, about this book in particular. And then after that, I'll be signing, and I'll just stick around until 4 in case people can't make the noon event, but still want to sit and chat. I'd love to. And that's what we're doing there.
All right. This is the Garland Barnes & Noble. There's like 11 of them around here. The Garland Barnes & Noble this Saturday, August 16th. This is the author for She Had Beyond the Break and Chasing After Night, and her new book, All for the Game. If you want your kids to get interested in reading, if they're not already familiar with her work, find a good book, get them started, let it catch on. Maybe you can do it starting this Saturday, August 16th. Heather Bookta, what else can we expect at your event? Do we need to bring anything or?
No, just bring yourself, bring an excited attitude to talk books. And also I will say that I wanted to write a book that would transfer well to adult readers who wouldn't roll their eyes reading a teen book. And I think I matched both sides of the coin pretty well, where teens can enjoy and adults can also get a good thriller out of it.
All right. Well, I see your book over here on barnesandnoble.com. Where else can we find your work online, Heather Bookta?
Anywhere. I always encourage people to buy from independent bookstores to keep that going. But if you can't, Amazon, you can buy at Barnes & Noble, you can buy at Target.com, anywhere where books are sold.
All right, Heather Bookta, thank you very much for being on the James Show, and good luck with your new book, and good luck with your appearance in Garland on Saturday.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Okay, coming up next, remember how when we were growing up, people would say, hey, man, it's the 70s. Hey, man, it's the 80s. Hey, man, it's the 90s. Why don't we say, hey, man, it's the 20s? We'll talk about that next on The James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM WBAP. I am your host, James Parker, and it's the last segment of the show where I stick in the weird stuff, because this isn't a good time to start a whole new discussion and for you to think about it and call in, and we can get to the bottom of some great issue that we're dealing with in society. This is where I stick the just the little thoughts that I don't even know where I'm going with this, but I thought you'd be interested in. I want you to think back to when we were growing up. If you're about my age, you remember people saying, hey, man, it's the 80s, or I'm an 80s guy, or I'm an 80s kind of gal, or it's the 90s, I'm a 90s guy. Hey, takes all kinds. It's the 90s. I didn't see that coming. Well, it is the 90s. If you're a little older than me, I imagine people said this about the 70s too. I just wasn't coherent. But we stopped saying that in the year 2000. Now, did we stop saying that because, hey, man, it's the aughts or it's the zeros, or we didn't have a cool little saying for it? And, the teens, the tens, what do we say there? Well, we don't have that excuse anymore, and we're halfway through the decade, and we're not running around saying, hey, man, it's the 20s. You know what that's like? Yeah, well, it is the 20s. Well, I had this date, went totally weird, totally caught me off guard. Hey, relax, it's the 20s. Why don't we say that? And if you're like Garrett's age or something, just to let you know, this is how much we used to talk about, hey, man, it's the 90s. This is a montage, and these aren't obscure pop culture references. This is like the big movies and TV shows and interviews and musicians and actors, politicians, everyone just said, hey, man, it's the 90s.
90s are going to make the 60s look like the 50s.
Honey, it's the 90s, remember? Microchips, microwaves, faxes, earphones.
Wake up and smell the 90s.
For God's sake, Chucky, drag yourself into the 90s.
Uncle Phil, can you take a stroll into the 90s, please? Come on, Uncle Phil, this is the 90s, man.
Man, it's the 90s. It's hammer time. Come on.
Oh, come on, Brenda. It's the 90s, for God's sakes.
This is the 90s, the 1990s in point of fact.
Ma, it's the 90s. You can call it what it is. Our monthly visitor.
I think I'm going to like the 90s.
Just because we're getting older, it doesn't mean that we're old. This is the 90s.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. This is the 1990s, all right? In this day and age, a man has to have choices.
The 90s is no time to play hero.
I can be anything I want to be. It's the 90s.
This is the 90s, Dan. Witches are women.
Our bride is a 90s Cinderella. She doesn't just dance with her Prince Charming. She chalks deals on her cellular phone. She throws the wicked stepsisters into the pool.
I'm a woman of the 90s, and you're not much of a lady.
I really can't stand it, those people who blame their worst traits on everyone but themselves. It's so 90s.
You know, kissing is so 1990s.
Look at that. We used to say it like it was in everything. This is so 90s. Those 90s. There's a weird cultural identity, though, that did kind of stop after the 90s. And maybe it's not just because the number wasn't something that was easy to translate, the aughts, the teens, whatever. But do you notice how, like, if someone is dressed in the style of the 70s, you recognize it. The 60s, the 50s, you recognize it. 80s, you can recognize it. 90s, you can recognize it. After the 90s, can you tell what year it is based on someone's clothes? If you see the first episode of The Office, it looks, which came out, like 2004, 2005, somewhere around there. If you look at it now, they look like they're contemporary. The only way you can really tell that the show's from the mid-aughts is the two things: the size of their monitor. They still had the giant refrigerator-sized monitor, and the cell phones. They didn't have smartphones yet. Other than that, we still look the same. What's going on with that? If you had a 2000s party, what would you wear? A Ed Hardy shirt? I mean, what is the style that defines the aughts or the teens? Or you can't say, well, we're too close to it. That was only a few years ago and we hadn't really delineated a new cultural style since then. Bro, that's 20 years ago. When we were in the middle of the 90s, if this was 1995, and someone said, compared to what fashion was like 20 years ago, you could totally tell the difference. You could totally tell, and you would have to skip over the 80s to get there. Oh, it not only was it different, it had changed, completely turned over twice. And it seemed to be on almost a decade scale. So you can tell 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. You can tell with the clothes, that people were wearing, with the hairstyles that they had, with the way houses were built. Can you tell the difference between a house that's built in 2025 and a house that's built in 2005? What happened? We stopped changing. Why? And one scary answer for that is, well, we've reached our peak. You know, if you're going up, things are changing. If you're going down, things are changing. But if you've plateaued off, you're at the top. Now we have to make the decision. Are we going to go back to being like we were? Or are we going to continue this cycle and start the decline? And I don't have the answer for that one. All right, stick around. Coming up next, Mark Levin, and I want to remind you, tomorrow is going to be a very special edition of programming on WBAP because we're covering what could be historic summit between Russia and the United States in Alaska. So we're going to be your home for that. And if it's not going to be history, if it's going to be a walkaway, if it's going to be a footnote, if it's just going to be a stepping stone to a real deal, we'll let you know that too. But come back. Tomorrow's a special day above and beyond the normal Friday program. So come on back. In the meantime, if you need more James Show action, go check out the podcast wherever you're already listening to podcasts or WBAP.com and the WBAP app. I'm James Parker. This has been The James Show, News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM, WBAP.